I'm Duncan, and I'm the current chair of the Mariposa Grandmothers, which is the Orillia branch of Grandmothers to Grandmothers who are part of the Stephen Lewis Foundation Grandmother to Grandmothers campaign. We started in 2006, really got rolling in 2007, and there are about 20 of us. We have an associate list with another 20 or 25 people on it, and we have raised over $100,000 which goes strictly to grandmothers. The art exhibit that we are hosting originated in Kitchener-Waterloo with the Grandmothers to Grandmothers there, who were quite taken with an exhibit that had been done a number of years ago in one of the Greater Vancouver area grandmothers groups, and it was based on a textile exhibit donated as a fundraiser, I believe, for the Stephen Lewis Foundation, and the grandmothers there turned it into a beautiful coffee table book as a fundraiser, which many of us saw. So the grandmothers in Kitchener thought, we live in quilt country, we should be able to do a quilt show. That was in 2012, and in 2014 they launched it. They issued invitations to quilt artists to submit pieces of work, and they received 29 pieces of work from Ontario and Quebec. One of the pieces was donated by, I believe, a quilter from Ontario, but she bought this piece of work in South Africa, so it truly is African. And one of the other pieces has material in it that came from Nigeria. I forget how many, I think 8 or 9 communities in total are seeing it, and part of the mandate for a grandmother's group is to educate and inform the public about what the Stephen Lewis Foundation is doing. This really helps us to do it, and the images here are powerful, but equally as powerful are the stories behind each piece of art. The Stephen Lewis Foundation is the creation of Stephen Lewis and his daughter, Alana. He was the UN, the Canadian ambassador to the UN for many years, and then he became a special AIDS envoy, and he has been very aware of the way that AIDS has ravaged Africa, and in 2003 he created his foundation. But they started with 6 grandmothers groups across Canada, and it has grown to 240. I believe I've seen maps where there are a couple of groups in Australia and the US as well. So it is becoming more internationally known. Mm-hmm. And in the time since 2006, the Grandmothers campaign has raised over $21 million, which has gone to Africa, sub-Saharan Africa. And in that area, there are 15 countries where the Stephen Lewis Foundation has grassroots organizations. He believes in working where the money is needed most. So it goes directly to grandmothers so that they can feed their grandchildren, house their grandchildren, clothe them, pay school fees, buy the uniforms. And oftentimes a grandmother is given the wherewithal to set up a small business, and then she becomes totally self-sufficient. In 2013, they had a tribunal in Vancouver, and that was allowed 4 grandmothers who'd come over from Africa to talk about what it's like living in their countries and the terrible obstacles in their way. Women have no rights. If the husband or grandfather should die of AIDS, and it's usually AIDS, then his family is allowed to come in and take the woman's home. And so the grandmother, the children, they are, if the mother's alive, they have nowhere to go, providing shelter for them. Oftentimes they have AIDS, the children have AIDS, so they need counseling, they need antiviral drugs, they need education on how to protect themselves from HIV and AIDS. Now, in the latest grassroots newsletter, I noticed there's a real focus on the needs of the orphans, and Stephen Lewis is speaking out very loudly about that the world seems to be forgetting that there are 17 million orphans, I would assume, in these 15 countries, and that's like half the population of Canada, and not all of them are living with their grandmothers. They are really at the mercy of whatever life in that locale is offering them. I think in the reading I've been doing related to it or because of it, I'm very angry and sad that there are 17 million orphans, and yet great progress has been made. So we have to continue doing what we're doing, and it also makes me aware that there are needs here at home that need to be addressed. It's an eye-opener. We did meet with a young worker from Uganda last spring, and she said the one thing the grandmothers wanted to know was, the Canadian grandmothers won't get tired, will they? They won't forget about us, and no, we certainly haven't. Tina Blazak, who is one of our members, volunteers at the foundation once a week. So she's very aware of all that's going on down there and keeps us informed and keeps bringing us the latest news. She is going to speak to the DVD they made of the tribunal. Now, the tribunal lasted for, I think, 3 days, and there is a full DVD which is 3 hours long. This is merely 40 minutes, and they've pulled the highlights out of it, but they've allowed the grandmothers to speak about the obstacles that they have to deal with, each in their own country, and then each of the judges on the tribunal will speak as to what they feel is the most important issue that the world needs to be aware of to help these women move forward and move the children forward.